Chris, your area of expertise is primarily in the plug and abandonment consulting business. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so you're the guy who's responsible for obtaining the permits that help oil and gas companies properly abandon and seal off wells that and reserves that have been depleted.
That's correct.
And then you also aid in the removing of idle iron.
I do.
Okay. And I would suspect that you work for multiple operators.
I do.
Okay. And again, you are the person who's responsible for getting those permits.
I am, yes.
Are you sitting on any of those permits?
I absolutely don't sit on any of the permits. They're written and submitted as fast as possible.
Okay. And so as soon as you get them, you get to work?
Absolutely.
Are you having any problem once you get your permit, are you having any problem procuring the equipment and the services necessary to do that work?
Absolutely not. And where we're at right now is the permitting is so slow and it has pushed so much work. There are dive boats and heavy lift vessels stacked at the beach. The rates we're seeing are just, I don't know how the companies are making any money. The assets are there.
So if I told you, if I asked you if you thought that there are operators out there who actually have a P&A permit at their office that they're not acting upon, would you believe me?
Actually, I wouldn't, and the only reason I think that they would not act on it is if it ran into a bad weather window, and there's a safety issue then. If we run further into the year, that would be the only reason to not act on a P&A permit.
Mr. Reese, are you sitting on any P&A permits?
I'm sorry, say again.
Or do y'all have any P&A permits that are at ATP that y'all are not acting upon?
Not this, other than because of a weather window or scheduling equipment and things of that nature. No, we would be acting on everything that we would have.
Do you know if there's a lack of on the P&A side, if there's a lack of equipment or services available for you to do your work?
I'm not aware of that. It's not my area of expertise, but I'm not aware of there being lack of ability to get equipment for that piece.
Mr. Schaefer?
Relative to P&A and really any types of permits, I think what we're seeing right now is historically in the Gulf of Mexico, there's always been a small backlog, I guess you'd say, of permits, which is really all you need to, once you finish one job, move on to the next job and not have your assets, whether it be P&A equipment and heavy lift barges, drilling rigs. Normally you'd like to move them immediately. A lot of this equipment's very expensive. The crews are very expensive. And so historically you've always had a small backlog of permits, just enough to move the equipment around. And right now it's quite the opposite. As Chris had mentioned, what we're seeing now is equipment on the beach, in the ports, sitting there, not working, and available for work. So definitely, yeah.
Now, Chris, let me ask you, you've had some difficulty as everyone else, but on the P&A permitting side and removing idle iron is something that the administration, Secretary Salzar, Director Bromwich have gone on record as early as 2 months after the Macondo incident, saying that it's something that they want to see happen in the Gulf of Mexico. What do you think the biggest obstacle is? What do you, if you said to this committee, I would suggest that Bohm or Bessie does this now, what would it be that you would suggest?
They need to staff appropriately. They need to standardize the forms. We don't have standardized forms for abandonment. Everybody does it a different way. And they need to automate it just the same way they do with wells. And there needs to be more focus. The fish are important, and I appreciate Dr. Galvez's research and everything. But the most important animal that's affected by this is the human animal. And we need to turn our focus to that, and that needs to be their focus as well. Keep seeing what the effect is on the environment, but we are the environment, and nobody seems to understand that.
Well, let me ask you this. It was my understanding that each well is different in the P&A permitting process, so how would you standardize that?
Well, the wells have a standard form called an APM form. That's real simple. That's been in play forever. Anytime you want to modify a well bore, you file an APM form. The platform removal application 30 CFR 250 has a list of questions that you answer, as most government regulations do. Build a form where you can fill in the blank. Because when you hire new people at BOEM, this is kind of specialized, but when you hire new people, it's easier to train them. Same thing we did in the Army when we were all in the Army. Easy forms, learn how to use it. Automate it so that I can get online and see, just like I can with the well permits, and see where it's at, what questions have been asked. Currently, I have to pick the phone up and I have to call the 1 or 2 approving personnel at Bessie and ask them, hey, where's this permit at? What's the status? That takes time from them. It takes time from me. We shouldn't be there. Not in today's world. Real simple. Thank you.